Hello everyone, this is part 15 of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Planned It All, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Oki walked into a room to be greeted with screams of agonizing pain. Please, I gave you the information you wanted. Isn't that enough? Let me live, a man screamed. A woman chuckled. No, it isn't enough. There are two things to remember when you're begging for your life. One is to try and entertain the person holding the gun to your head, and the other is to give that person. She paused and gave a small hum. Her voice audibly changed with a sick grin. The other is to give them a convincing reason why they shouldn't kill you. But you haven't managed to do either one of those things. There was then a sickening crack and the thud of a body hitting the floor. Hello Oki. Nice of you to come down and visit. Always a pleasure, Balalaika. So you got the intel. A woman stepped into his view. She had blonde hair and blue-eyed woman with scars across what could be seen of her face, neck, breasts, and legs. Her hair was very long, going down to the base of her spine, and done up in a huge ponytail. She wore a wine-red skirt suit with black stockings and black high heels. Indeed, I should have my people on it soon. I'll go personally to make sure they are all taken care of. Balalaika said. Good, we need all of the Jashinists out of the way before we have no way of fighting them. Break. They were sitting in the living room of Kuretsuki's home. Each was in a chair across from the other, a coffee table in between them. So then, you tracked it back to me. Kuretsuki said. Yes, you thought that by sending those Anbu there to intimidate me into surrendering, you would gain something. Or perhaps you thought it would gain your nation something. I really don't care why though, only that you did. Naruto said. Interestingly enough, your grandfather rejected the idea. Smart man. You thought that I wouldn't be able to kill the group you sent to Izu, or at the very least would have enough trouble dealing with them to be intimidated by your village's forces, and you were wrong. They were supposed to have killed you if you hadn't agreed to surrender all to Iwa and Kumo. Yes, that was one thing I thought funny. You actually convinced the Raikage to send some of his Anbu with your group. Honestly, I might have been hard-pressed to kill them all if I hadn't had two people with me. However, they failed quickly and foolishly. So now the question remains of what to do with you. Do you know how many people have threatened me in the past as the Tsuchikage's granddaughter? No, and I don't really care. Look, I get what you're doing. Coming here to try and settle things. Try to intimidate me into serving you so it doesn't happen again. I can tell you no, it won't work. Naruto sighed. I already knew that. The problem you face is much different than you think. You see, this was my home. My home, damn it. So I am not here to threaten you. I'm here to kill you. Naruto shocked her by lunging forward over the coffee table and wrapping his hands around her throat. She tried to remove his hands but failed. She started punching at his face only for his head to come down and smash into her forehead, stunning her for a moment. He released her, causing her to cough and gasp for air. Before she could regain her senses and try resisting again, he drew a blade and cut off her hands. Immediately he dropped down again and started to choke her once more. She would die. Even as she flailed and tried to get free, sending blood everywhere, she would die. Once she was finally dead, Naruto stood up and looked down at the body. Pathetic. Well, at least I can compliment you on not trying to beg. You tried to resist the whole time. No look of pleading. Nothing. He then turned and walked to the door, bringing the hood of a cloak over his head so he wasn't seen. As he walked out, two people flanked him. Kagari and Kureo. Are they all out and replaced? He asked as he turned to them. They are. Kureo replied. So, do we get to watch this place go up in smoke now? Kagari asked. The original's meeting with the Tsuchikage is almost over. Hurry and get outside the blast radius just in case. Naruto said before dispersing in a cloud of smoke. Break. Naruto's head turned a moment as if distracted. His attention was caught again by a cough. Yes, so now that you know what she has done, Lord Tsuchikage, what do you think should be done? Naruto said, turning back to the old man he was meeting. I still can't believe she did this. I ordered her not to take matters too far. She believed that sending a team to intimidate and kill you alone would work. I knew it would only make things worse, Onoki said. And so it has. Things are on the brink now. Your village stands between me and my dream. And look what has happened now. So I ask again, how should this be handled? Onoki sighed. Under normal circumstances, everyone responsible would be executed, but Naruto nodded. Shouldn't such measures be taken now? You can't be serious. This is my granddaughter. And she threatened my home. Investigation turned up that she actually sold my friends in Taki. I will not allow this to go unpunished. So you now have two choices. Allow me to be her executioner as an example, or you will have yourself and every member of your village bow to me and swear not loyalty, but fealty, to me and all of Orb. What? You will have my village bow to you? Are you insane? I am being exceedingly rational, all things considered. You want me to be insane? I could destroy your village now. This is a very delicate political situation that could explode at any moment. So choose. I can't let my only living relative die, and I can't just have my village bow to you. Naruto sighed. So be it. Take comfort in one thing though. I may have already killed your granddaughter, but be grateful that most of the civilians are no longer within the walls. Before Onoki could respond, Naruto disappeared. He reappeared walking far outside the village walls of Iwa. He touched his ear and spoke into the communications device. Fire the crest gun. As the order was given, he pulled a small cigarette from his pocket and lit it. As he took on puff, there was a sonic boom. There was a blinding light before a shockwave and walls of wind blew past him. Iwa was gone now. One of his personal guard landed next to him. I was unaware you smoked, sir. I don't, Naruto said. He then started coughing and spat. He threw the cigarette onto the ground and cursed. How do people smoke those things on a regular basis? They're disgusting. So why smoke that one? I could die during the war, my friend. I felt like looking cool for a moment. Now then, on to Kumo. The Raikage might have been deceived by the Tsuchikage's granddaughter, but he is still to blame for so easily joining in on such a foolish action. Sir, if they don't kneel, what will you do? You wonder if I'll fire the crest gun at them. No, they were deceived and deserve a warrior's death. Was the Tsuchikage not deceived? It was his own fault for not keeping an eye on his forces and a steady hand on those who should not be given command. He was destroyed for it. Now go. Prepare the armies in waiting. Tomorrow we march. Yes, sir. And after Kumo, Naruto kept walking, an airship coming down to pick him up. He started laughing. As of now, the end begins. Then we go to Konoha. Oh yes, like sheep to the pen. Sir, Konoha, they're like sheep to the pen. Break. Naruto stood atop a ridge, looking down at the burning village below. He heard the screams of people who had stood in his way. People who had refused to run when the others stood up and started a battle as his army marched. How many days have passed like this, with this story carrying on? I've had this dream so many times, but now these moments have passed and gone away. I sometimes wonder, could there be an end to this, what I'm feeling deep inside? He said to no one in particular. However, Shino, who was standing behind him with Anko, stepped forward. If you're having second thoughts, Naruto, you could always stop this. You've done so much already that it will be difficult for anyone to go against Orb without some sort of backlash that they know to avoid. Naruto turned to him. All three of us know by now that there is no looking back. There's no going back. The time has already come. Now that the sun is gone, there are no more shadows. We can't give up. Not now. I know that. And so this life goes on. Don't worry, Shino. I'll be strong until I see the end. Shino nodded. Anko walked up and pulled them together into her arms. Don't worry, you two. Soon enough, even if we die in the process, our dreams will be realized. Naruto leaned into the hug and whispered to them. Thank you for your help. I really hope that you two don't fall along the path that I walk. Break. Power expenditure stable. Gravitational seals holding at nominal levels. Static and noise falling within acceptable deviations. Feedback return imminent. Receiving. Feedback return confirmed. Data coming through. Data accepted and interpreted. All levels, feedback, and percentages either in acceptable and expected ranges of deviation, at near perfection, or at absolute perfection. Bahamut Sky Fortress is operating at peak performance and is ready for combat and warfare. Reports coming in. Results are green across the board. The fleet is mobilized and ready. Naruto walked across the bridge of the fortress and onto the observation deck, listening to the reports coming in from the people sitting at the operation terminals of the fortress. He watched as the structure floated over the mountains. There it was. The village was starting to come into view. He looked around and saw the many classes of warships that formed the fleet. Hundreds of ships with Bahamut leading the charge. He then turned to everyone giving reports and gave a small cough to get their attention. Good. Tell every ship and member of the fleet to get ready. We will be on the village in a matter of seconds. I want this quick and clean with as little loss as possible. It's time. The beginning of the end. All forces, attack, he said before turning to look out over Kumo. They had refused his offer of mercy. Now he would give them death. Though he did have to note they were at least smart enough to accept the 2 hours to get their civilians out. Send in the shinobi. I'm already tired of this war. Bring me the wreckage when he's defeated. Airships quickly started moving in over Kumo. Smaller drop ships carried down shinobi as the larger ones opened fire on the towers of the village. Their fire was not unreciprocated. Bolts of lightning started firing into the air along with scattered balls of fire. While the hulls of some of the larger ships could take it for long periods of time, smaller ships started falling out of the air. Naruto wouldn't have it. He saw that the wreckage was no longer in the central tower the moment one of the ground teams disappeared in a massive bolt of electricity. Fire the main cannon. Bring it all down, Naruto said. The Bahamut moved over the mountain in the center of the village before firing the main cannon pointing straight down. The massive beam of energy fired downward. Moments passed before the entire mountain exploded and started crumbling down. The rocks crushed anyone within or around the tower. One of the dropships got lower to the ground and allowed its team to drop to the ground. Tayuya dropped to the ground in the center of several Kumo shinobi. She spun her flute around as it extended into a staff. She took down several of her opponents, hundreds of notes flying from the staff as air passed through it. One of the Kumo shinobi was about to stab her in the back when Jirobo landed on top of them, breaking their spine and instantly silencing them. Sayuya turned to him and gave a small smile and nod. Jirobo brought up an earthen wall and sent it toward a group of shinobi headed in the direction. Kidomaru, Sakon, and Akon also dropped in. Sakon and Yukon's arms fused as they punched a man in the stomach as he came around a corner. Kidomaru pulled up his height 8 and looked around. He spotted a small genjutsu and launched webbing over the area, trapping the 2 shinobi who were hiding. Another shinobi ran around the corner for Jirobo to lift up his leg and kick the man in the face. More came from one of the rooftops and were about to jab kunai into Jirobo's back. They were quickly crushed as a heavily armored person dropped in on them. The red and yellow armored man stood above the bodies and looked over them. Kikuchio stood at full height and allowed Kyuzo to jump off his back. He pulled his sword and easily cleaved through a line of the enemy. Kyuzo pulled both of his blades and dashed in between several enemies in the crowd, cutting tendons and other vital areas in quick succession. In another part of the village, Jugo dropped in with Kimimaro, who brought up a field of bones among the enemies while Jugo transformed into a deranged form and started screaming and laughing. It's strange to see you giving into that voluntarily, Jugo. Kimimaro said. Yes, but now I have reason to. Jugo growled out. They took off and started destroying what they could, Jugo firing off blasts of energy while his friend used blades of bone to cut through materials and people. All of a sudden, Jugo was blasted into a wall by a rapidly moving object. The wreckage. Jugo simply laughed at him as multiple appendages grew from his back, built up chakra, and fired it towards the man. I got him. I got the big guy. Jugo shouted. Jugo was then launched into another wall by the wreckage, who now had electricity surging around him. He started rushing towards Kimimaro, who simply exploded with bones. Stopped himself just in time for the tip of one of those bones to be mere millimeters from his eye. He backed up as the bones retracted. The bones then started forming a lance around one of Kimimaro's hands and a sword in the other. Jugo landed next to Kimimaro, a deranged smile on his face. This is going to be fun. On the other side of the village, Tayuya was playing her flute, putting several shinobi to sleep. One who was still somewhat away charged at them only to have a first put him down. Tayuya smirked and touched her ear. Looks like most of the forces in this area have been dealt with. This is operations control, we have that confirmed. Head to the eastern sector as per the plan and assist Jugo and Kimimaro with the rakeage. Should he provide too much challenge, trap him in the triple Rashomon and we will fire a blast from the Bahamut fortress to take him down. Confirm orders. Orders received. Heading to point break. Naruto walked down the streets. He had not expected so much damage in the battle here. Kumo was heavily damaged, but it could be repaired. He then walked into one of the areas his people had used to set up camp. Tayuya was instantly at his side. She had a bandage over her eye. Your eye? Naruto asked. Nothing. Just a cut. I'll be fine. I feel worse for a con. He lost an arm. Tayuya said. Her voice became disheartened when she mentioned her friend's injury. I'll see one of the puppeteers in sooner about getting him a replacement. For now, just see to it that the medics do their best. Yes sir. Now, about the rakeage. It took us a while, as you no doubt saw, but we brought him down. You said you wanted him alive, but you didn't say anything about cutting him up a bit. That's right. I don't really care much for the damage. He won't be around much longer. Right. He's this way. She then led him towards a large tent. She pulled back the flap to show many prisoners. At the end of the rows of people was one. The rakeage. A man who had resisted peace. The man who then sat there and looked defiantly up at Naruto. So then rakeage, now that your burden is 2 arms lighter, what do you think of my offer? The rakeage spit in his face. Screw you, monster. Naruto whipped off his face with a chuckle. I'm no monster. I'm a warrior, like you. Now then, how should I execute you? A beheading before your remaining village. Perhaps allow you to commit seppuku. Oh, wait, sorry, you have no arms now. Well, maybe I should just do it now. Within the beat of a heart, the rakeage was headless, his blood on the blade in Naruto's hand. Good. Now we can move on. All that's left is confirmation from Sugetsu about Taki and then we head to Konoha. Break. Sugetsu rushed through the streets of Taki, the rest of his team behind him. He swung the Kiba blades and decapitated someone just as they landed in front of the group. Another shinobi came to strike him with a sword but was quickly stopped as a large needle passed through the man's arm. Mangetsu pulled back on Nuibari to stitch the blade from the man's arm through his shoulder and then move him back to a large group of shinobi already on the wire. Kisame crashed through a wall, laughing like a maniac as his blade ripped through several enemy shinobi. Samehada gorged itself on the chakra of those it came in contact with and kept getting bigger. Even with swords piercing his body, Kisame didn't care. Samehada was fueling him with more than enough to survive being torn in half. Itachi walked calmly through the same hole in the wall that Kisame had come from, his Susanu's ribcage formed around him. Kisame, perhaps you should switch to decaf. Itachi said. Kisame turned to him. I don't drink coffee. He then shot off again. Itachi sighed and kept moving. An arm formed from the ribcage and swatted away an enemy foolish enough to run at him with a drawn sword. Sugetsu saw an explosive tag flying towards him and sliced through it with the kiba. The seal exploded, knocking the blades from his hands. Another shinobi wanted to slash at him with a kunai only to be cleaved in half as Sugetsu unsealed Shibuki from his wrist and swung the blade in a wide arc. Chojuro had Hiramekare form a massive hammer and easily crushed several of the enemy. The chakra then switched to a longsword that cut through an office building, bringing the entire structure down. Zabuza stood in the center of a coiled water dragon that he launched at a cluster of shinobi that brought up an earth wall to protect them. Haku made several hand signs and froze the dragon, creating a massive projectile that easily smashed through the defenses. Anyone who survived to try mounting a counter-attack were quickly covered in senbon or hacked to pieces by Zabuza's Kubikiri Boko. It wouldn't be much longer before victory. And everyone, on either side, knew it. Break. Naruto stood at the top of the Bahamut, feeling the wind whip at him. He took a deep breath before jumping over the side. Falling faster and faster as he picked up speed, he opened his eyes and looked down. As the ground came up at him, he entered his sage mode and allowed his wings to open up. He finally landed and folded in his wings, waiting a moment before turning to look at his army. He had landed in between Shino and Anko. This was all by design, of course. He needed this entrance to be dramatic in order to boost morale. As high as it was, he knew that no one was particularly happy. They had won the battle at Kumo, but they had still lost people. His army was finally only a few miles away from Konoha. With their time up, Konoha was being forced to stand down. It was finally time to dominate the world. With Kumo and Iwa taken down, all that was left was this village. And then Zetsu would fall. He stood there before his army as they stayed at a halt. They had been camped there for an hour now, waiting for the signal to begin their march. With them gathered in a valley with trees on either side, his voice was able to reach them all. Azu, prepare for glory. We are almost clear of this pathetic war. Almost to the peace we have been working towards. So now, I have one last thing to say, and I say it now because I might not get the chance later. This applies to now, and to the day we take on those who seek to destroy us all. He said before a small pause. I won't make this any more of speech than it has already become. So, if we don't make it out alive, well, it's a hell of a good day to die. It has been an honor serving with all of you. I thank you all. He let a heavy silence fall over them all. No one said anything. None dared ruin it. Naruto looked at each face he could only saw resolve. He nodded. Now, let's move. With that said, he turned back to the village he could see in the distance. He started walking, everyone beginning their own march in response. It was finally time to end the corruption that had so long festered. With them merely walking, it was another hour before the entire army started collecting around the walls of Konoha. And at the gates waiting for them, was Sasuke Uchiha, Konohamaru Sarutobi, and Rock Lee. Naruto walked up to the three, his face unwavering. He got up to them and stood there, looking at them. You continue to both surprise and disappoint me, Sasuke. First you reject my offer of peace. Next you attack me and my family. Now you stand here without following my orders. You have kept your position of power rather than give it to Konohamaru like I ordered. Naruto, you ordered that? Konohamaru asked, surprise etched into his face. Oh, so you never even mentioned it. Naruto said, highly amused. I was trying to keep everything stable. Sasuke said. And we see how that worked. Naruto shouted. You've brought war to your doorstep. All you ever wanted was peace. All I ever tried to do was bring an end to the corruption. An end to war. I tried to bring a better world into existence. Quote. He started pacing in front of Sasuke and the others. You just don't get it, do you? I gave you everything. Every opportunity. Your eyes. So many chances. But this is how you stand before me. Can't you understand what I'm doing? When I began, humanity was stagnant. Dying. I would give it one unified empire. One body, so to speak. I would give it one banner. He spread his arms out and looked to the sky. Think about it. With one banner there would be no more war. He then paused to look back at the three in front of him. He began drawing his arm in wide arc with every sentence. With all the world focused only on bettering the world, we could do anything. Curing incurable disease. Reaching unreachable places. Nothing couldn't be done. There would be no more suffering. He lowered his arms and went back to pacing. Don't you see? All I've ever been trying to do. I was never out to harm humanity. I was only ever trying to give it a second chance. But you want this army to just go away. You want to live your fantasy world. You want me to give you another chance. But not this time. You don't get another chance. It's time you gave me something. Now the only thing left standing in between me and Earth's true destiny is you and your village. He shrugged. Well, I guess I can't forget about Zetsu, but you get the point. Now then, you bring me Tsunade, and then you tell everyone here that Konohamaru and I are in charge. Sasuke shook his head, his face taking on a hard expression. You can't. Naruto sighed. I can and I will. But I'm not giving you a warning of words anymore. He then held up his hand. Lee, did you follow orders? Lee nodded. All according to your youthful plan. Thank you, Lee. Unravel. Before anyone could question Lee's words or what was going on, a bright light flashed and temporarily blinded everyone. When the light faded, they all looked up to see a massive section of the village missing along with an area of the ground beneath the buildings. I told you I was done handing out chances. Naruto said. You just destroyed part of the village. All those people? Sasuke asked. Shut up, Sasuke. If anyone has died here today, it was by your indirect influence. You did this. Now stand down or more people die. Step aside and let Mai take over your village or you will die screaming beside it. Sasuke hung his head for a moment. Dark feathers sprouted along his body and his fingers turned into talons as his sage mode activated. No, I will do as my brother did. I will separate myself from the village to protect it. He then took a kunai and dragged it across his height 8. Konohamaru, I am no longer a part of this village. I act alone. You want to try again, Sasuke? In an attempt to fight me while also making sure it won't affect the village. Doesn't matter. Your village will fall regardless. Now, let's see what you will be willing to do. No one is to interfere. Sasuke shouted as he charged forward. Naruto laughed and grabbed onto Sasuke before launching into the sky. Miles away from the village and Naruto brought him to the ground. They flew by at alarming rates as he slammed Sasuke into the ground and continued dragging him along. Do not disappoint me again. Naruto shouted. Naruto was flipped over as Sasuke suddenly folded in one of his wings and slammed them both into the ground. He got up and staggered a few feet from where he and Sasuke had landed before jumping up and landing on a large tree branch where he crouched as Sasuke groaned and stood up. He then took off and hid among the trees. Sasuke looked around. Where are you? He asked to himself. Naruto activated a seal on his neck that projected his voice across the entire area. Why do you continue to help these people, Sasuke? You have nothing to gain from them. No reason to fight for them. Yet here you stand with your life on the line for them. Is that so hard to understand? With everything they have done? Of course it is. What happened to everything I did for you? You were my brother, in all but blood. Do you remember that? Naruto asked before laughing. Tell me, Sasuke, do you want a life of happiness? Or a life of meaning? I'd rather have both. That's not possible, I'm afraid. Can't be done. Two very different paths. I mean, to be truly happy, a man must live absolutely in the present. And with no thought of what's gone before, and no thought of what lies ahead. But, a life of meaning. A man is condemned to wallow in the past and obsess about the future. And my guess is that you've done quite a bit of obsessing about yours these last few days. I gave you so much. But then you tried to destroy me. I was going to give everyone a world where they could live a life of happiness. I care about the world. I just want to save the world. To heal it. You killed so many people. Only those who had a chance of standing against me. Those civilians you care oh so much about. Lee followed the orders I gave him. The offer I gave him to save those he cared for, regardless of whether or not those people stood against me. We have always needed something big to bring the world on the proper course. I want to bring everyone hope. This is what you think brings hope. All those people dead. There's 6.5 billion people on this planet. The people I've killed. That's less than 0.001%. Come on, that's an acceptable loss by anyone's account. Acceptable loss. This war will be a catalyst for peace. But unlike every war before, my precious people will maintain that peace. Orb shall maintain peace for all of eternity. Oh, but you got me off track. Remember when I was talking about your pathetic villages? I replaced them all with clones. They're all sealed up in scrolls on the outskirts of Konoha's territory. What? Yes, I promised Lee the same thing I promised you. Salvation of the people he valued. How lucky are you that that just so happened to be every civilian in the village and a large portion of the shinobi force. I only intended on killing a select few of your people from the very beginning. Lee just helped make that goal so much easier. With that last word, Naruto's foot contacted Sasuke's back, kicking the Uchiha into the dirt. Naruto put his palms together and gave a small bow. Round 1, Naruto. Now you're just being an asshole. Sasuke said as he stood back up. Naruto chuckled before letting out a heavy sigh. He was about to speak again when there was an explosion in the direction of Konoha. Sasuke turned towards it. Keep your eyes on me, Sasuke. Naruto said. What did you do? I left them to protect them. Naruto chuckled again. You still don't get it, do you? The entire reason you were allowed to live this long was because you were just so weak. Everyone was so angry that I left you alive, but now I get to tell you why. You see, I was quite confident that you'd do more damage to these people, to Konoha, than they could ever do to themselves. You're a fool for the things you've done, and I knew that putting you in charge of the village would be nothing short of a recipe for disaster. I figured I'd let you rally these people and then kill you after a few months. So why didn't you? I would have. Without a moment's hesitation, I might add. Oh, but then you did something special. You gave these people hope. And with that came a new level of motivation. To fight harder, to die faster. That's what's happening over there. With you gone, the few who stood for your cause became even fewer. Those who abandoned your goal now fight for Konohamaru against those who resist. But those who stand against my forces are dying so much faster now. No, that's not what, Sasuke. Not right, not fair. I don't care. Thanks to you and everything you've done, all who do resist are being taken into custody or killed. All with the belief that their sacrifice might actually mean something. But you know what? It all means nothing. At the end of the day, if I'm stronger than you and if I'm faster than you, then I can kill you. And that's better than anything money can ever buy. The deaths are on your head. Their failure is all stemmed from your failure. Oh, and you know the best part. Remember your clan I brought back to keep an eye on you and yours. They are out there, helping me take down the village as they planned to do so long ago. You bastard. I'm a bastard now. No, I'm just the one who cares about what needs to be done. Oh, but then there was the fact that I'm bound by my own word not to kill everyone. But tomorrow soon it will be executed in front of your entire village. And do you know what I'm going to say to them as I do it? I'm going to tell them how you and her, who were supposed to protect them, who were supposed to save them, who they were supposed to put all their hope in, have failed. How their hope was for nothing. I will fulfill an old promise. I will crush your entire village's hope. I will make them all see the true depth of their failure. And then nothing will stop me from creating my better world. Sasuke screamed and charged him. Naruto simply spun around him and kicked him again and then retreated back among the trees moments later. You know, I have never been sure what was worse. I'm still not sure. The knowledge that you never understood, or the doubt that you ever could. He said before leaping to another tree, not giving Sasuke the chance to track him. You once cared nothing for these people. I changed that. You care for them because I changed you. I kept you from the darkness. You were once a survivor. Maybe I should have left you that way. I was a different person. No, you were a soldier. You say that like the two different things. Let me rephrase myself. You were willing to do anything a true soldier needed to do. When a true soldier is told to kill, or needs to, he kills. He does not question why, or in any other case he does not try to make excuses for himself, he does not mourn the fallen, he fulfills his role and moves on to the next. Is that what you want to be? A true soldier. Naruto stood on a branch as he readied a black Rasengan in each palm of his hands. He readied himself to lunge forward. No, that is what I am. He launched himself forward and buried one of the spheres into the ground where Sasuke had once stood. He twisted around and saw Sasuke above him, ready to strike. Naruto did something Sasuke thought impossible. He replaced himself the dust around the Uchiha. Sasuke activated his Susanoo to protect himself from the second Rasengan as it went to make contact with his body. However, the force still sent him flying backwards. When he stood back up, he looked at Naruto as his Susanoo faded away. I would keep that up, but I know you would then use the Kyuubi. I can't have so much destruction so close to the village, even if it's being taken over. Naruto smirked. I don't need his help with you, he said before disappearing. Sasuke felt a searing pain in his back as Naruto placed a seal on him. Instantly, he was among the trees yet again. You know your problem, Sasuke. I warned you. Even when I gave you a choice, you chose to fight. Under normal circumstances, I would admire that decision. But regardless, it is always important to know that admiration of one decision will never be respect. And it will never mean salvation. But let me ask a question. Did you really think defending Konoha in the way you did was honorable? Yes. How foolish. Honor should never factor into such a decision. If I depended on honor, the moment you first attacked me and my village would have been the last time your village saw the light of day. Arrows would blot out the sun. My vengeance would have blotted out the sky. But I was the one making the decisions. Anyone else would have wiped you out, would have erased your village from the face of this planet and from all history. Think about that. No. Think about it. Imagine the field where your people would have been slaughtered in their final moments, trying to defend themselves from the unavoidable only to be left for dead to rot in the sun and be picked at by the scavengers. No. Naruto's laugh echoed the clearing. Imagine yourself there. Walk among the dead, among your dead. Think on that. Walk among the ashes of a billion dead souls, and ask if your honor matters. If it matters to me. If it matters to them. To the dead. If it matters to anyone. The silence of an empty void, where hundreds once lived, shall be your only answer. Your honor is worthless to me, as it is worthless to the dead. Then what do you want from me? What do I want from you? I once only asked for you to accept my offer of redemption. Now redemption shall forever elude you. Redemption. Tell me, who are you that would stand against me? Sasuke groaned in pain as the seal on his back started to burn. Naruto then appeared before him. He tried to form hand signs, however, as he tried to call forth his chakra, pain shot through his body and forced him to his knees. As the pain faded, he heard Naruto's laughter. Now that is a pity. What will you do now? You are forsaken. No help will come. He then walked over to the kneeling Uchiha and delivered a savage kick to his head, putting him on the ground. He then started to repeatedly stomp on his chest and ribs. He was about to go for a 10th kick when he stopped himself. You cannot save your village from the fire, Sasuke. Those people will burn. Tell me, wretch, how now shall you challenge me? You have nothing left but your death. Naruto then held out his hand and prepared another Rasengan. He picked Sasuke up by his shit and forced him to stand there, though he was slouching. Sasuke was unable to do anything this time as Naruto burrowed the Rasengan into his shoulder. He screamed in agony as his shoulder was shredded and then blown apart. He flew across the clearing and landed on his side. He could then feel himself beginning to lose consciousness. That is the last time you try to beat me, Hokage Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto said before he picked something up and started laughing. Like sheep to the pen, Sasuke. Like sheep to the pen. He said as he walked up to Sasuke and then crouched in front of him. He waved the Uchiha's own arm in front of him, the Rasengan having ripped it off. Like sheep to the pen, you're ready for slaughter. Sasuke then lost consciousness. Naruto sighed and stood up, looking down at his once friend. His voice adopted a somber tone as he spoke. I am a perfect soldier, Sasuke. I do not mourn my fallen enemies. Don't think me a monster, though. I tried so long to help you. But I will not mourn your death. I will mourn my fallen. I will be a perfect soldier so that I can save my people. But when I fix this broken world, then there will never be a need for true soldiers again. And then, if I survive this, then I can finally have my life of happiness. If not, acceptable losses. Remember how I talked about those? I have always counted myself on that list. Never think I didn't. Now let's get you back before you bleed out. Your brother would be very angry if I didn't let him be the one to choose. His wings spread out as he picked Sasuke up. He then took off. As the village again came into view, he saw that his people had already moved into the village and started establishing the grasp on the vital areas. The fighting had already been mostly silenced. The forces were also trying to settle the civilians and started returning some of them to their homes. Or, in the case of people whose homes had been destroyed, to tents that had been set up. However, many people were running in the streets. Many were panicking. Even worse, some were inciting panic in some of the few who were trying to calm down. He needed this to be quelled soon. Naruto finally landed outside of a hospital. Several people came running towards them. He threw Sasuke at their feet along with his arm. Keep him alive. Reattach the arm if possible. Naruto said before taking off again. He landed on the corner of the roof of a building in the center of where the people were causing the most panic. He let some of the nature energy flow more rampant as he let out a roar with a stream of fire directed at the air. The fire died down as his jaw, which had taken on a more animalistic appearance, started returning to normal. The people looked up at him, screamed, ran, and, more importantly, begged. He had been waiting for this moment. He discerned one plea in particular out of the panicked crowd. Please, spare us. He laughed and then shouted so that all could hear him. You want me to spare you? He let out a dark chuckle. He let loose another stream of fire into the air. As it ended, he whispered to himself. No. He stood there a moment as some of them became quieter. Let that be your answer. You all had your chance long ago. Now I shall tell you one time. If you continue this worthless panic, you shall all pay. Go home and settle down. For if you do not, you shall pay a price you are not ready to pay. He didn't wait for their response as he turned his back on them. He could hear a slight buzzing in his ears. The cloud of insects formed a small arrow in the air and started moving. He took off into the air to follow them. Shino was standing on the roof of the Hokage's tower as he approached, greeting him once he landed next to him and allowed the sage mode to fade away. How's everything going? Naruto asked. We have any resisting shinobi on lockdown? Shino said. Most joined Konohamaru either because it was him or because they wanted to join you. We have everyone you said were specific targets already in custody. We also located Tsunade. She's ready for execution whenever you give the order. Good. Let everyone rest. They deserve it. Also, do notify them that anyone who starts unwarranted trouble, regardless of village or side, will be personally executed by me. Of course. Break. Kichigai sat at a table in a restaurant with his head hanging low. Ever since he had become whole, he had been unable to figure out what he was supposed to do now. He no longer had to try and get his power back. While his madness was still there, it was not as all-encompassing as it was before. And now he couldn't figure out what to do with himself. He let out a heavy sigh. Tell me, why feel regret in the midst of everything you wanted? A voice said. Kichigai looked up to see Skull sitting across from him. Skull, what do you think I should do? I have what I wanted. I have my power and the pain is gone, but now I don't know what to do. The madness is there, but not like it was. I can still feel it making up a part of my personality, but it doesn't drive me like it did before. All I can do is sit here and think. I would say it's driving me insane, but it's not. I have no purpose now. Skull nodded. Phew. What about her? You mean me feeling something for her? I don't know what I feel for anything anymore. I feel empty and complete all at the same time. It's not part of my original nature. Feeling anything like that towards anyone is confusing. Skull gave a dark chuckle. Always is, madness or not. Kichigai sighed. Come on, you cryptic bastard, talk to me here. Skull laughed again. I was once like you. What's that mean? Monster and hero. Insane yet not. I am everything I was meant to be. In an instant, Skull was gone. Break. Naruto sat in the Hokage's office with his feet propped up. He took a whiskey glass out of Tsunade's private stash and pulled a bottle from a ceiling array on his arm. He poured some of the contents out into the glass and started drinking. Then there was a knock on the door. Send her in, Naruto said. Someone opened the door for one of Naruto's personal guard to shove Tsunade in. She looked rough. Bruises, still healing scratches, and a hollow eye adorned her face. Her hair was messy and she had a limp as she walked. They walked her over to the chair in front of Naruto and forced her to sit down with a shove. Please, she's nothing. Remove the restraints, he said. They complied before giving a nod to him with a small, sir, before leaving. Tsunade looked up at him. You take my home, you have your goons take my eye, and now you take my alcohol. Well, first off, I simply took back from you what I made yours. What I no longer care for. Then, they aren't goons. They are my friends. Thirdly, it's not your alcohol. It's still my glass. Naruto sighed. He drank the last of his drink before throwing the glass at a wall, shattering it. He then pulled a smooth glass from his seal and poured more into the new glass. Happy? He asked. Also, this isn't even alcohol. It's tea. Want some? He said before sliding her the glass and making yet another for himself. Tsunade took the glass and noticed that the tea was still hot. Not steaming, but hot. Wondering about the heat. Preservation seal. Naruto said. Preserves all aspects of the quality. Even heat. Tsunade drank from it, deciding not to question it. So now what? Well, tomorrow I'm going to execute you and anyone else who stands for your archaic world. Tsunade looked up at him. Why don't I just kill you now then? You're wounded and don't stand a chance at killing me. Besides, if I wanted to, I could fly you up higher than anyone before you has ever gone and drop you, he said before making a whistling noise that got lower over a few seconds before he made the sound of a small crash. He gave a small chuckle. Come on Tsunade, laugh while you can. Enjoy your tea. Relax. Things are finally about to become what I have always dreamed of. We will finally have peace. You might have peace, but I'm going to be dead and my village is going to be under your thumb. You are killing me with the negativity. She scoffed. If only. He sighed. I tried offering you a chance at this once before. But you never could see past what you wanted to see. I always hated you for that. So why the tea? Are you complaining? Listen. You're here because you have made mistakes. As have I. So, I'm offering you a toast. To grand mistakes of earth-shattering proportions. So that's it. A toast. That's it. Why? Naruto reached under the desk and tossed her a bottle of her alcohol. You're about to be taken to your cell. I suggest you drink all of that you can. Tomorrow you die. What is this? Honor among shinobi. As someone who, in my opinion at the very least, has no honor, I suggest you not question mine or how I act on it. I have given all a shot at redemption. Most have refused. Like you did. So, go back to your cell. Think on your sins. And I suggest you start hoping that everything good you've done in your life is enough to make up for every wrong. As Naruto said this, another guard came in and lifted Tsunade up. She was being moved out of the room as she spoke up. What about your sins? When you're done, will your good deeds outweigh your sins? She never got her answer as she was dragged through the door. Naruto sighed. Tsunade, I wonder that same question all the time. Redemption. It's something we all seek. He then started laughing. He stood up and looked out the window. His arms spread out like the smile on his face. Everyone seeks redemption at the close. He then turned to the door and called in one of the guards. Is the other one here yet? He asked. She's waiting just outside. Good. Send her in. Within moments, the guard was gone and Ino Yamanaka walked in. It has been so long, Ino. How the years fly by. Ino nodded. Yes, they do. So why did you want to see me exactly? I wouldn't think it was to catch up. You and I weren't exactly on good terms when you left. No, but that's changed. The biggest reason you are here is because I need to make sure you can accept the new management. You want to know if I'm going to cause any trouble over the village being taken over. He nodded. Basically, I'm sure you already know how my opinion of you changed over the years. Several people changed like that over the years. But, you'll notice I haven't answered your question. No, I won't cause any kind of resistance or rebellion. I've seen the kind of power and prosperity your people have been experiencing. I'm not going to challenge that. Good. Now a slightly different question. What's your opinion of me and my forces? My village and empire and its people? My opinion. I'm not entirely sure exactly. Most of these people are put off by you. I've decided to hold my opinion for later. I've seen plenty, but I really don't know much. I think I'll hold just about all judgments until after this war. After the war, I do hope you form a good opinion of me before that. And why is that? Why? I have my own doubts about whether or not most of the people alive right now shall remain that way up to the end of this war. So, now it's time I ask if you're willing to fight beside me in this war. Break. Naruto dragged a beaten and bloodied Tsunade onto the stage they had spent the last few hours constructing. The whole village would watch as she died. He was going to make absolutely sure of that. He was particularly glad that Zabuza and the others rejoined the main force. Now that they were in control of Taki again, they also had Kakazu. All that mattered now was getting back Fu. The only problem was that Zetsu probably had her by now. Naruto put Tsunade down on her knees in the center of a row of people, Sasuke being just to the left of her, and leaned next to her for a moment. I'm glad you took my advice and drank. Why do you care? Redemption, Tsunade. Everyone deserves a moment or chance at redemption. Naruto then stood up and looked out at the crowd that had been gathered. Now then, I think the first part of business should be Sasuke Uchiha. He said. He gestured to the Uchiha. His fate shall not be decided by me, however, as it is his brother's responsibility. Itachi. Itachi stepped forward from the side. He stepped in front of his brother and looked at him. Naruto stepped up and leaned in. So then, my friend. Are you ready to do this? Itachi nodded. Sasuke. Your punishment, he sighed. Your punishment is to be banished. Banished. Naruto spoke loudly. Sasuke Uchiha is to be banished to lands to the west of the elemental nations. Now that that's settled, onto the scheduled execution. Itachi stepped off to the side while one of the guards dragged Sasuke off the stage. Along the row of people who were about to be executed were Choji, Choza, Tsume, Inoiki, and several Junin and Anbu. Several Azu Anbu lined up behind the designated wards. Naruto called Zabuza over. The man happily gave him his blade. He gave a slight bow before Zabuza went back to his spot. Blades at the ready, Naruto said. He hefted the executioner's blade up over his shoulder. Several of the other shinobi readied their own blades. He was about to speak when he noticed a woman in the front with her eyes closed. He disappeared and reappeared in front of her, placing his hand under her chin and making her look at him. You will witness what happens here today. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear, it'll all be over soon. He then reappeared at the stage behind Tsunade. He spoke up again. I came here with one very simple goal. To destroy corruption and bring peace. So now I end this. Behold, as the ones you put all your hope in die. They failed. Naruto was soundless as he brought the blade down on top of Tsunade's head. He didn't expect the result, but did not complain. The blade not only dug into her head, but cleave her body clean in half from top to bottom. It was done. It was finally done. Now so little remained. Break. I still think that choice was stupid. Execution or banishment to the Badlands? Itachi asked. Yes. The constant storms. The wild animals. The legends. Don't forget that it was our ancestors that turned them into the Badlands. The constant war between Uchiha and Senju. When the Uzumaki split off, that ancient land of war was turned into uninhabitable hellhole thanks to those people. Once the surgeries to properly reconnect his arm are finished, he won't have much trouble surviving. I don't agree. I'm not asking you to agree. But the sheer truth is that with his chakra reserves being what they are and his EMS, he could keep the most basic form of the Susanoo active for years. I still don't like sentencing my brother to that life. It was either this, a life in a deep dark hole in the ground, or execution. I let you choose. I didn't get the option of putting in a hole where he would be alive. I wasn't going to let him live after everything he did. This is the closest middle ground we could reach. He is still alive, but he is gone. Itachi sighed. Fine. So now what? How do we proceed? We give everyone a few days to rest. Then we go to Zetsu's hideout and do what he's been trying to avoid up to now. We break down his door and bring the fight to his doorstep. I'm hoping that this can go without them getting the rest of the pieces of the Juubi, but I get this feeling that no matter how I try to stop it, I will eventually be standing face to face with Kaguya Otsutsuki. What about you, Izuna? What are your thoughts on all of this? Izuna, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. To learn that my brother and I, our entire clan, was always being manipulated, I'll help you. Would even if I wasn't brought back by this jutsu. I need to talk some sense into my brother. You can do that all you want, but Zetsu will never give him control of his own body. He'll be a slave. You can make sure he knows, which might help him resist, but that will be all. That's enough for me. Good. Now we must prepare. It's time for war. Break. Kichigai stood in one of the practice fields, repeatedly firing off Raiten Jutsu. The crackling electricity that surged around him easily sliced through trees and targets alike. He sighed and cut off the flow of his chakra into the jutsu. He had been at this for several hours now, not sure of anything else he needed to do. You feeling a bit better now? Kichigai turned to Sifu standing there, leaning against a tree. What are you doing here? Kichigai asked. Well, this is a public training ground in the village I live in. So. Yeah, I get it. So then, you feeling better? He sighed. No, I'm not. She stood up straight and walked over to him. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to help you there. Then why are you here? I'm not really sure. I guess there were a few things I needed to say to you. I don't need your words. Kichigai turned away from her and looked down at her hands, seeing that they were shaking. I think you do. After becoming whole, you really don't know what to do with yourself. So, I want you to listen to what I have to say. She paused a moment to see if he would object. He didn't. You keep moping about how you don't have a purpose anymore and you're going to wind up dying before you can do anything about it. I suggest you figure out exactly what it is you want out of all this before it's too late. And what exactly should I want from all of this? Fu shrugged. How should I know? It's not like I know what you should want. But you really should decide soon. After all, most of us will be going soon. What does that mean? The 8 are heading out soon to help the Azukage against Zetsu. The official orders are for almost everyone to remain behind, but just about everyone is going. I suppose they all know that everyone here is in danger. So what? Are you asking if I'm going to go help too? If I'm going to fight as well? I'm telling you that if you truly want anything, you better figure out what it is before everyone is gone and most everyone winds up dead. The rest of the world isn't going to stand by and wait for you to make up your mind. I know. It's just, my entire life, both within Naruto's mind and outside, have been spent as nothing but madness with the goal to destroy in the end. I don't know enough about what else I'm supposed to want. Well, I do pity you on that part, but it's time to choose. Those words echoed in his mind for a moment. The same words had been used by his fragments. The words to show when it was finally time to choose a path for survival. You know, back when I was a fragmented being of madness, one of my fragments said the same thing. It's time to choose a path for survival. Well then, perhaps it is time I choose. Leave me to my thoughts for now. Let's see where it all goes from there. Fu nodded before walking away from the field. Kichigai thought things through for a moment, wondering exactly what move he should make. He looked at his shaking hands. He knew it. Fear. That's what was making them shake. He moved them through a few hand signs before 2 clones appeared in front of him, one looking exactly like him, the other slightly different. His breathing faltered. He fell to his knees, his heart stopped for a moment. All of a sudden it was beating again, nearly twice as fast as it was before. It was almost a minute before his heartbeat returned to normal. Looking up at the clones, he nodded. So that's what that feels like. I just hope he appreciates this. Well, that and that I don't even need to use his card as my own. The clones then took off, heading towards where Kichigai's own body had been when he took over. Interesting choice, a voice said from behind. To help a once foe with a +1 chance he knows nothing about. He turned around and saw Skull standing there. What do you want now? Gonna say some more cryptic things and not be much help, again. As I recall, I'm a cryptic bastard. Yeah, I get it. What do you want from life? What do I want? What kind of question is that? The kind you should answer. And if I don't, you're afraid. Too afraid not to. As much as you want answers, you're too afraid of not getting them to not answer my question. You see a lot, Skull. But are you strong enough to point that high-powered perception at yourself? How about it? Look at yourself and tell the truth. Tell me what you see. Or maybe you're afraid to. Skull let out a dark chuckle. You are a tough one. Aren't you? Reasonably so, I guess. Yes. And you'd hate to think you were common. My, wouldn't that sting? Well, you're far from common, madness. All you have is the fear of it. Nothing more. Just shut up and talk to me here. My, what a contradiction. However, you want me to talk to you. You know I usually don't speak to anyone. So what? Open up for once and help me out here. You want to know where my knowledge comes from. What my thoughts are. I once had a woman I loved. It was more than just confusing. Irritating. Maddening. A grating against my very skull. I had never felt something like that for anyone. One day, I decide to finally ask her about it. On that day, she and her father and mother and brother and sister are taken by a group of soulless monsters. Mercs. Murderers. Bandits. Slave traders. They raped her mother, her sister, and her while making them watch as they killed her father and brother. When I finally hunted them all down, it had already been a year. A year. They were kept alive that long. You will find that people like that can find all sorts of reasons to keep women alive for as long as they please. Anyways, I eventually found that her mother had died. She had tried resisting one day and bit one of them. The one she bit was in surgery for so long, it made me laugh when I found out he had to live the rest of his life without what some of those men treasured most. But, he killed her in his rage. But when I found the woman and her sister, do you know what I found? Of course not. But I'll bite. What did you find? Skull snickered a bit before falling somber again. She had killed her sister in the chaos of my attack. Her sister had asked her to. What did she do when I found her? She didn't thank me for finally saving her. She didn't cry. She just looked up at me and asked me to kill her. She had been unable to take her own life. She was too afraid. So I granted her request. Why? I discovered in the instant she asked me to do that I would do anything for her, no matter what. That is what that feeling is. The feeling of love. But now I carry her forever with me. As he finished, he brushed his hand against the skull on his head. That's her skull, isn't it? Yes. As you can tell, I had to separate the jaw and remove some of the back and sides so it could fit, but yes. It is hers. Is that why you usually don't talk? No. Habit from long before. Thank you for hearing me. That is all I can do to help you, Kichigai. How does that help me? Your fragment of love came to care for this village and some of the people in it. The question is, will you also do anything for these people? You see, the point of all this is that no matter what, no one can help you with this. You must make up your own mind for this decision. Skull then disappeared in a blur of smoke. Kichigai smirked. Asshole, he mumbled to himself. Only problem is that I still don't know what to do with myself. He then looked at a small note floating in the air in front of him. He grabbed it and read it. Not every result can be the one desired. Trust your own judgments and actions. That is enough. Skull. Time for war then. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.